early on in the business, coming from athletics, it was easy to always be so confident in your ability. When it came to like trying to talk to people about the opportunity and products, it didn't go the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
I saw this and I was just super excited. I was just, convicted, and I just wanted to talk to everyone about it. And naturally, as I started to do that, I realized that a lot of people already knew about, Amway. And one of the funny stories was that, when I first got introduced and I brought a cranberry grape XS home, and I started telling my mom about Amway, she was like, me and your father actually saw that a long time ago. And I share that because I think for me, I thought this was a whole new concept that no one knew about, but
Right.
I realized then, like, how long they've been around and started to get exposed to this. And actually, as I started going out there, I was just really bad at being able to like make a connection and really share what this opportunity was. So I think a lot of the earlier days was just me being able to overcome a lot of my own, insecurities and my own kind of doubts and fears. So I think that's kind of where I kind of started earlier on in my journey. But
100%. Actually, if I could just quickly echo what you said, I remember being this people pleaser, because I didn't have a lot of friends in college, because I was always working on my assignments and being to myself in a small group of people. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, I had to just be really nice to others, or just agree with what they were saying, or try to do what they were doing so that, they'd accept me. And bringing that into business didn't really help, obviously, right? And that's one of the things I love about just the experience was I started to realize I could just be myself, be who I am, and care more about the other person. And as a result, earn their friendship and trust and build that bigger community.
Absolutely.
Perhaps you probably went through the same thing, right,
100%,
Brandon?
100%. My experience is, a lot of it started because I wanted to make money, but it was difficult because, you didn't have that financial literacy. Most people didn't, teach it. And then this business kind of exposed for me what I did not know, a lot of it. And majority of it was relationships. Secondly, it was my inability to be able to finish, right? And so I say that very, very timidly because it was a topic back in the day where it was like, man, you're so good at starting, but you're terrible at finishing. And so long story short, man, I can remember I was trying to find ways to be myself, but also implement this business into my personal friendships and relationships and stuff like that. So coming from athletics, like he was saying, I was like, man, energy drinks are that's it. Everybody's drinking energy drinks. We used to have pool parties. So I lived at this community. It was called the Retreat at Lake Tamaha in Tuscaloosa. And they had this like Olympic sized pool that was like right in the center of the property. And being a college town, everybody hung out at the pool. Right. So what I did was I drove all the way here, actually, and I got a pallet of excess. And I rented one of those smaller U-Hauls, and man, we just threw a bunch of excess. And we said, man, we got exams coming up. It's warm. People are gonna be out there. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna invest into my business and get it done. So it was a success. I'd probably say at least 1,000 people show up.
Man.
Oh my God.
And man, it was excess everywhere. We had the flags, we had the excess tent, stuff like that.
That's so cool.
And it was a great time. And for a while there, I was the excess guy. Oh, you sell? Yeah. So, but that bridged the gap between myself and talking about the business itself. Because if somebody has some little pathway where they can relate to somebody or have a product that actually helps you build a relationship, it becomes a lot easier to build a business from that sense. So,
Speaking of products, everything about this business and the products were exciting to me. My parents had seen Amway 15 years before I did. And, I'm like, are you serious? How come you never launched in business and all of that? And anyway, and the catalog and the website with all the products. I was so excited. So I would try all of this stuff out. Cut to, we launched this new team member. And this poor team member had to sit there and listen from me about Double X for guess how long? An hour and a half. I spoke to him about Double X, just the one product.
Wow.
We're sitting, I can still imagine the couch. We're sitting there, and he was, he's a really humble guy, and he was like paying attention. But the funny thing about that, and of course, I would not recommend that to anyone. Don't speak to someone about a product for an hour and a half. But the funny thing was, he was so sold on Double X that from that day on, he started taking it, and to this day, that's the first product he recommends to everybody he talks to.
Well, obviously, you did a good job.